All right, hello everybody. It's been quite a while since I made the video, so today I want to show you this short thing. I'm preparing a webinar, which we are going to have on the 1st of July. Amongst many other people, Jessica Johnson from Foratom will be there to tell us something about the EU taxonomy. And what I'm preparing right now has to do with material use in energy, obviously, something, that I like to do. So what you can see here are the references that I'm using. So it's the population growth expectations from the UN. It's a publication from TNO. So TNO is basically you could compare it to ARPA-E basically. They figure a lot of technical stuff out in the Netherlands. It's very interesting what they do. Then we have the USGS commodity pages, and finally we have the REN 21 2021 report. Now, what am I trying to do here? So you see here WOZ, WOL, and PV. Now, WOZ stands for wind on sea. WOL stands for wind on land. And PV, obviously, it's photovoltaics. So TNO has tried to create a scenario for the Netherlands. They say, okay, by 2050 we need to be as carbon neutral as possible. And basically what they are saying is 71% of our energy will come from renewables by 2050. So that's 75 gigawatts of wind on sea, 10 gigawatts of wind on land, and 90 gigawatts of solar. Yes, that's right, 90. So what I did is I made so first of all, what you see here, this nuclear is, suppose that we want to do 100% electric. So what I did was I created a situation in which I extrapolate from 71 to 100%, which means that instead of 75 gigawatts of wind on sea, you have 80, 14 gigawatts of wind on land, and 127 gigawatts of solar. But instead of building that, we're going to fill it up with nuclear. So that's 177 terawatt hours per year. And if you want to generate that using nuclear, you need 22 gigawatts of nuclear. Now, at the current state of the distribution network in the Netherlands, we would be capable of adding 25 gigawatts of nuclear. That immediately should ring alarm bells with you people, because we only consume 115 terawatt hours of electricity a year. So this is already well beyond that. It's 177 terawatt hours per year. Now, what is this? What is what you see down here? Now, if you go down, what you see is, this is from the International Energy Agency, the IEA, and they recently showed us, how much materials you would need for each technology, but these are critical materials. So there's no concrete in there. There's no steel. You don't see plastics or any other kind of ubiquitous stuff like aluminum, for instance. What you see here is copper, nickel, manganese, chromium, molybdenum, zinc, and rare earths, as you can see. So once you put this into a bar chart, you will get this. Now, I basically changed it up from kilograms per megawatt to tons per gigawatt because it's easier, and it's both a factor of 1,000, so you can do it one by one. Well, what you can see straight away is that wind on sea is actually the most material intense technology that we have. Now, suppose that we are going to build this in the Netherlands. This is the chart that you would get. So Tino has called it its transform model. I've picked the 100% extrapolation instead of the 71%. So, and what you see is, and I'm going to concentrate on this here because this is the most important, is that we need a 1.3, 1.2, 1.3 million tons of copper to get our transition done to 100% renewable. Now, the Netherlands is a tiny country, and 160 gigawatts, I mean, on a world scale, doesn't mean that much. So what I'm going to do right now is something that I always like. I'm going to make the world the Netherlands. I'm going to assume that each and every human being in the world wants to live the same way people in the Netherlands do. Now, I know for you Canadians and for you Americans and perhaps also for Australians, I don't know, British, that would mean a little cut into what you can do and what you can't do. But on the other hand, you would be living much closer to your work and much closer to each other. So you will be using slightly less electricity and energy in a year. So what we are going to do now is the first thing that I do is, okay, I'm going to say, okay, by 2050, the Dutch will have about 21.5 million inhabitants. So what is the kilogram per capita? So this is the factor that I'm going to use. And what you come up with is, okay, so the UN estimates that by 2050 we have 9.7 billion people on the planet. And if you look at, the amount of electricity energy that we use, 611 gigawatt hours with 21 million people by 2050, what you get is 384,000 terawatt hours. So this is still in gigawatt hours, right? So this is 385,000 terawatt hours. Now, here comes the cool bit. So what we would need to do the Dutch thing, with wind on sea, wind on land, and PV in the whole world, that would cost 50 terawatts of wind on sea, 8 terawatts, 9 terawatts wind on land, and roughly 80 terawatts of solar PV. That's a lot. That's really, 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 really a lot. Now, let me show you why that's a lot. So we are going to do the transform thing for copper, right? We're not going to look at all the other stuff because this is one of the interesting bits that you can see here is the closer you get, the closer the smaller the gap between these two figures here is, so known reserves and the total usage, the worse it becomes. So nickel, we're still off quite a way. Manganese, we'll never run out of manganese ever. Same for chromium. Molybdenum is a little bit, it's a little bit harder. In zinc, we're already overshooting what is possible. And rare earths, even though we call them rare, they're not actually that rare. So we are never going to run out of rare earths. If we look at these raw figures, I mean, there's a whole lot of considerations that we can do. Y, X, Y, and Z might not be possible and might be possible. But I'm going to concentrate on copper because copper is my thing. Copper is what started this whole adventure for me in electricity production, in energy consumption, you name it. So what you see is if we do all that, if we build all that stuff, even though we're already overshooting here with zinc, which is a big problem, which is something that I'm going to dive into later on to see what the zinc is used for. It's probably used in alloys or something like that. But copper is used in its elemental form. So it's just a copper wire running down, all the way from the top of the windmill down to this, which is as thick as my arm. And yeah, we are going to use 654 million tons of copper. Now, if we want to do this linearly, so we start today and we end in 2050. And in 2050, we have made it. We've built magical windmills that will last for 50 or 60 years. And all we need to do is linearly build this stuff, and then we can start replacing them in intervals, and etc. etc. So what I've done here is, so what we need, so this is a quite simple calculation. So if you look at this, then you see what I'm doing is I'm dividing this by the number of years that we have left. So that's 29 years that we have left, right? So what you get is, okay, we need 22.5 million tons of copper each year. Our current production is 25 million. Now, somebody would say, okay, that's cool. We produce more than we need. We need only 22.5 and we produce 25 and everything is hunky-dory. But it's not. Because, this is already a volatile market where a lot of existing processes that are non-electrical or that are, non-generational, non-generating stuff is buying copper, because we need copper for the consumption side and we need copper for the production side. So it's two ends, and we use copper for a lot of different things as well. We use it as a building material. We use it in certain chemical processes. I mean, there's a lot of uses for copper. So what I do is, okay, let's say we want to build these. This means that we need to open up a lot more mines in order to get to this 47.6 million tons that we are going to produce each year in order to make possible this glorious, transition from what we have today to all renewables. Everything will be fine. Well, what you would need, and this is the what I should say is cumulative CU what is it, consumption, right? It's not really consumed. Utilization is maybe better. Utilization, right? Okay. So the total cumulative copper utilization from now until then, so that's not counting all the copper that's already in the market, which is not as much as that we have here, is 1.4 billion tons of copper. That's 158% of all the copper that is economically available to us today. And some of you might say, oh, well, that's not a problem because, once you consume more copper and you need more copper and you need more copper, the copper prices will start to rise. People will start to open mines and everything will be hunky-dory. But that's not how it works, unfortunately. So this is why apart from the zinc thing here, you can see we're already consuming more zinc than is economically recoverable at this moment, which is a big no-no, a big red flag. It's not possible. We also have, the same problem with wind and solar on this end. It's just, it boggles the mind. It's more than we can unearth now. And just look at it. We almost need to double our copper production each year. And opening a mine takes 10 years. So yeah, I wanted to show you this because this is profound, This is big. If the world wants to live the Dutch lifestyle, which I consider a good lifestyle, then we need to yank out all the copper that we can get now, right now, And I don't know if this is a sacrifice that we want to make. And before I leave, I want to say a big thanks to all the people who have supported me on Patreon so far, because you make a profound difference in my life. Even though I don't make the best videos on the planet. I do loads of stuff. I try to do the best that I can do to for the biggest benefit to all. And I do this on, I get benefits from my disability, which is 650 euros a month. So whatever you can give me through Patreon has made a big difference in my life. It made all the difference. It made it possible for me to travel. It made it possible for me to meet people in the industry, like Cannon Bryan, Khalaf Kalametz, Kirsty Kogan, Eric Meyer. I mean, there's too many to name, really. But the fact that you enabled me to do that makes a huge difference today. Because as a chairman of the Elise Foundation, which I do without accepting money, by the way, I don't accept money for that work, means that we really, because this is something that I need to express right now, is we are the tip of the spear. We are actually bringing together industry, politicians, and we are on the cusp of actually getting a new startup in the Netherlands. We're just going to say, okay, we are going to build nuclear power plants in the Netherlands. And this is only possible thanks to your help, because I could not do it off the 650 euros I earn each month. The extra money that I make from Patreon makes all the difference. So if you could help me, keep helping me. Consider it, even though I'm not an official charity, but I would think it very charitable of you if you if you consider becoming a Patreon member and sending some money my way for the videos that I produce, including the big documentaries, etc. So thank you all for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.